Help.
Engaged.
Greetings everyone. In this episode, I will be slaying a dragon, solo. This is a big deal, because you normally have up to 3 companions with you. But I left them at home on this occasion, just to show you how good this class build is. But more about the class build in a moment. We are currently near a dragon, and although I was playing this game at normal difficulty, I decided to change it to the hardest setting, which is nightmare difficulty, just to make things more interesting. This was the first time I tried nightmare difficulty, so I wasn't sure what to expect. Well, what do you know, a sleeping dragon. Let's give it a rude awakening. I think the one and only power from the Inquisitor ability should do the trick. This power does not use any magic, but instead focus, which is the yellow bar in the bottom right-hand corner. The magic is the blue bar. We will not be able to use this ability again, because the focus bar takes a lot of time to fill up. I am calling this build, the Super Jedi Knight Mage, because you have a mage with a sword, who for all intents and purposes, is invulnerable. Don't get me wrong, you can still be hurt, and you can die, but not if you use the powers of this character correctly. So let's talk a little about what powers are key in making this character seemingly invulnerable. When you get right down to it, shields are the most important thing, or rather, force field shields. In this game, they are referred to as protective barriers. Mages can cast protective barriers via the Spirit ability. Here's a description of what the Spirit ability does, and I have also shown the upgrade paths I have chosen for this ability. But when you are starting out, the basic barrier is all you will need. There is also a subcategory of this upgrade, which allows you to cast barriers quicker, by reducing the cooldown times. I would recommend getting these 2 powers first, before anything else, because a barrier can keep you alive, as well as your teammates. After getting these 2 upgrades, I would recommend upgrading the Knight Enchanter ability next. The Knight Enchanter ability is a specialization ability which you can choose soon after reaching Skyhold. You will have to do a little side quest first, where you will have to acquire some items and build a spirit blade. Once you have this ability, I would recommend buying a special amulet from the shop at the Undercroft. It is called the Tactician's Renewal, and by wearing it, you will be able to reset all your powers. If you didn't choose the Knight Enchanter ability, then you will either have to load an earlier save, or start a new game. And needless to say, you also have to be a mage to build this class. But you should already know this, because after all, I did call this build, the Super Jedi Knight Mage. But anyway, let's get into the specifics of this ability. Here's the upgrade path I took, and I should point out that it is not necessary to upgrade every single power here, at least, not to begin with. The first power you can upgrade is the Spirit Blade, a very formidable weapon. In its most basic form, it can deal with almost any enemy, and after you add a few more powers from the Knight Enchanter ability tree, it really does make you a super mage. The next upgrade is a subcategory of the Spirit Blade. It's not essential to begin with, but if you've got the points to spare, I say upgrade it. Here's an example of what it can do. Pretty cool, right? Which is why I always upgrade that, to begin with. Okay, going down the left path of the tree, the next power is Combat Clarity. By staying close to enemies, you will regenerate magic 50% faster, which can come in handy if things get a little intense. And then further down from that power, we have probably the most useful power of this ability. Fade Shield actually generates a barrier around you, just by successfully attacking enemies. So in theory, you could keep attacking enemies, and your barrier will never go down. In practice, however, your Fade Shield barrier will go down, which is why I recommended getting the barrier power from the Spirit ability. This will ensure that if you do suddenly lose your Fade Shield barrier, like say in front of a dragon, you have a backup barrier to rely on. The combination of these barriers makes the Super Jedi Knight Mage easily the most powerful character in the game. Because almost infinite barrier means you will never die. In fact, before I recorded this footage, I beat this dragon at normal difficulty, and I did not lose health even once. But as you may have noticed, I have lost health in this battle, which is not surprising, considering I am playing at Nightmare difficulty, where even a momentary lapse in concentration can mean game over. As you can see here, my barrier is at less than half strength, so to play it safe, I cast a barrier via the Spirit ability, to gain it all back again. With a truly complementary combination, don't you think? Next on the tree, we have the Knight Protector power. This helps to keep your shields up longer. Okay, now going back up to the top, but this time to the right side of the tree, we have the Fade Cloak power. I originally dismissed this power, because it only lasted 2 seconds. But if used correctly, it can help you get out of a tough situation, just like this one right here, where I allowed a fireball to pass through me, to not only avoid it, but not take any damage either. Also, some enemy attacks will disturb your own attacks, causing them to fail. By activating this power, you can ensure that your attack will be successful. A subcategory of this power is the Decloaking Blast, which is useful against larger foes, such as this dragon, or a giant. By phasing through them, you can score free damage against them, simply by rematerializing inside them. And now, the final power in this group, that I think is mandatory for this build, Veiled Riposte. This will return damage to enemies if they attack your barrier. And that's it for the Knight Enchanter group. But we are not done with this build yet. Let's go back to the Spirit ability. The last power on the right side of the upgrade tree is this one, Strength of Spirits. It enables your barriers to take more damage before getting destroyed, something that we definitely want, especially when facing boss enemies. Another power we are interested in from this group is on the opposite side of the tree, and it too is at the very end. Rejuvenating Barrier increases magic regeneration by 35%. This means that when combined with Combat Clarity, we are regenerating magic by 85%, which can prove to be very useful indeed. Since having more available magic means we can cast a lot more different spells than normal, while in a battle. One thing to note though. Getting to both Strength of Spirits and Rejuvenating Barrier means purchasing powers we do not really need for this build. But wasting points becomes necessary if you want this character to be virtually invulnerable. I mean, let's not forget, we are currently in a battle with a dragon, at Nightmare difficulty, without the help of companions. I doubt any other character can do that, in this game. Anyway, the final essential power for this build, is this one. Fade Step, which is essentially a dash move. When combined with the subcategory, Frost Step, it becomes a useful weapon, both offensive and defensive. Offensive, because now we can damage enemies by passing through them. Defensive, because we can avoid incoming fire, by dashing out of the way. We can also dash towards the enemy, such as this dragon, because let's not forget that staying close to an enemy means faster magic regeneration, thanks to Combat Clarity. The dash move is from the Winter ability tree. And that's about it for the Super Jedi Knight Mage build. That's all you need to make this powerful, resilient character. I would also recommend you add one fire-based power, and one electric-based power. We already have a frost-based power, in the Fade Step move, but another, more ranged ice-based power can also prove to be useful. I will make a video about exactly how I have made this build, along with weapon, armor and accessory details, as well as any additional powers I have, so watch out for it. Meanwhile, let's concentrate on the action, where I will try to give some more dragon slaying tips. so I used a rock armor tonic here, and was just checking to see if it was successful, because sometimes you get interrupted by an attack, and you end up not taking a potion or a tonic. The rock armor tonic only increases your armor by 35, but the reason I am using it is for the secondary effect, where there is a 50% chance of an enemy getting stunned if it hits you. You never know, maybe the dragon will get stunned, or if not the dragon, then perhaps the dragonlings, who have joined the fight as well, as I'm sure you have noticed. I've also dropped a pitch grenade, which enables you to do 50% more damage to enemies. It also stuns enemies too, near where it explodes. I should point out that I have upgraded all my potions, tonics and grenades to their maximum specifications, so they are much more potent here than at their default state. When a dragon screams, it will not only stun you, but it will also mean that it has called in more dragonlings. You can break out of the stunned state early, by using Fade Cloak. I'm not sure what was happening here. I was trying to cast a barrier, but it was not working. A glitch like this can mean game over, but luckily, I was able to generate a barrier by using the Spirit Blade. And only then, did the cast barrier action decide to work. Typical. Since the game seemed to be glitching a little, I thought it best to replenish my health. I certainly didn't want to die at this point. There was an update to this game a couple of days ago, and I was a bit worried that they might nerf the Knight Enchanter ability. Because let's face it, it seems really overpowered compared to the rest of the abilities. After upgrading it to this build, I found the game to be almost too easy. It turns out that they did fine-tune the Spirit Blade a little, but not by much. The barriers just seem slightly less effective now. But maybe I'm imagining it. It seems that the dragon screams a lot more at Nightmare difficulty when compared to normal difficulty. Apart from that, I didn't really see much difference between the two difficulty settings. That's probably due to the nature of this build. Since you are constantly able to generate or cast barriers, the difficulty setting doesn't really seem to matter. But this certainly will not be true for other builds. You'll probably get your ass handed to you if you try to take on a dragon solo at Nightmare difficulty with a rogue, for example. One thing is for certain though, because I have checked. The dragon at Nightmare difficulty has about 20,000 more health than it does at normal difficulty. This probably means that it deals more damage too, which is often the case with most games when playing at higher difficulties. It's funny how the dragon seems to be retreating. It probably wants to do ranged attacks, but it looks as if it is scared. But thanks to the trusty fade step dash move, I can always stay close to the fracker, and keep the pressure on him, or her. When the dragon flaps its wings, it is trying to get you closer to it. But my aim is always to stay close to the fracker anyway. It is a good idea to constantly cast barriers, even if you don't need them, because not only will your magic regenerate faster, the cooldown time also decreases each time you do. You can do a fade step and fade glow combo to do some serious damage to larger enemies. Because you will not only do frost damage, but also additional damage if you rematerialize inside the enemy. In fact, this works on enemies of all sizes, but it is easier to rematerialize inside of giant enemies. After you have made a Super Jedi Knight Mage build, feel free to spend additional points on other powers too. Here's an interesting power from the Winter ability tree, called Mana Surge. According to the info, if someone destroys your barrier, you can freeze nearby enemies with a resulting explosion. This actually happens here, so check it out. The dragon was the one to destroy my barrier, which caused the nearby dragonlings to freeze. Quite a handy power, as far as I'm concerned. It took me 17 minutes to kill this dragon at normal difficulty, and it looks like it will take me 21 minutes to kill it at nightmare difficulty. The most annoying thing though, is the fact that you get the same amount of XP for killing this dragon at both difficulties. Surely we should have gotten more XP for nightmare difficulty. It seems a shame that we are not given an additional reward. Finally, the fracker is dead.
Is everyone alright?
And who the hell was she talking to? You see? The game does not expect you to fight this dragon without companions by your side. Watch out for any dragonlings that may have survived. Looks like there might be some more dragonlings nearby, but I will take care of them later. Now let's see what kind of loot we get for killing a dragon. Not bad. Anyway, that's all we've got time for. If you liked this video, or found it helpful, then please remember to comment, thumbs up and subscribe. This is Blade, and it's goodbye from me.